Oh, let me close my windows because there's music playing. Sorry.
It's okay. That is okay.
Okay.
How's the weather in good old England, Jess?
It's been very overcast the last couple days. Kind of not on the chilly side, but not the summer that we're apparently in. It's kind of like autumn weather, I would say, right now. It's very overcast. It's like jacket weather.
Ooh.
No.
It's my favorite season, so you're not gonna get me to
No, I
hate
know.
it.
That's my favorite too. So actually, I don't hate it too much. But I mean, we're literally mid-July, and we've had like a few days, like that one hot day. Remember when I was on stream
Yeah,
when
you're
I
like
lost?
excruciating pain from just the sheer heat.
Yeah, and I just felt hot everywhere. Like you just can't. But no,
Yeah,
I don't hate it. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. So.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, and I like that weather. I like that weather in like autumn.
There's the butt. There's a butt coming.
Yeah, I know. You can just tell the way she's saying it up.
That weather is lovely and wonderful in autumn. In autumn. So I like to have full, complete seasons, not like, gotcha, today you need a jacket. Tomorrow you need a tank top. It's like
tomorrow you need a raincoat. Like all these different things.
I'm telling you. But I mean, that sounds like a pretty mild weather day, so that's good. Not bad.
Yeah. Just kind of looks like it's gonna rain, but it's not. So
yeah.
How's the weather, Lauren? Your end?
I don't know. It's one of those days where it's. I mean, clearly we're in summer, but it's not crazy hot. It's just summer hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like partly cloudy, so it's not like a bright sunny day, but it's also not bright.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that weird in between that's not quite anything. It's just a is like the weather description.
That's what it's been like.
I get what you mean when you say, I do. I get it.
And Paul is just like, it's boiling hot here, it's sunny.
It's Florida. The usual 100% humidity right now, because it usually always.
100% humidity usually means it's raining, but it is hot and it is pretty humid because Florida, but it is sunshiny. It is sunshiny here. It is, and it's hot, but it's okay. It's summer. It'll probably be like this up until mid-October. So it's just
okay.
This is the lot we were dealt, guys. This is the lot we were dealt.
We've got like one, so yeah, it's like, I think it's end of September, technically over here when autumn starts, so we've still got like way over a month of summer, but I just feel like we peaked and it's just not going to go anywhere, so. Peaked too early, you know?
Dang. Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean...
Right.
That wasn't the random question, but take it away.
Okay, so I'll do the little intro first, because I realised on Monday I just went straight in with a random question, but normally we do the intro and then the random question. Yeah. So hello and welcome back to the Arghon AI Twitch channel. My name is Jess and I am your host today. I am joined by the wonderful Lauren and the wonderful Paula. Hey ladies. So today is Throwback Thursday. So on Thursday streams, we tend to focus on a certain industry. It could be technology or even just a way of life. And we basically examine them as they were in the past, as they are now, and how we see a future with artificial intelligence. So as always, be sure to follow us, friend us on Twitch. That way you get notified every time we go live, so you can join us and get involved in the conversation as it goes on. Also follow us on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Arghon AI, And of course, go to the website, which is at the top, so arghon.com. Be sure to download Arghon, try it out for yourself. Let us know what you think. So, ladies, random question. Paula, do you have one today?
I was just thinking, you know how sometimes like adverse flavors people really appreciate? So I'm going to narrow it down to two: bitter or sour.
Oh,
I've been really liking bitter lately.
I don't know if it sort of depends what it is. So, like, well, I mean, you wouldn't really have a bitter sweet, but if it's like sour sweets, I really like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sour. I'm gonna go sour.
I feel like
think.
you like sour. I feel like sour is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we've had this discussion, and you liked sour.
Yeah. you had a cherry gummy that was sour.
There you go.
Yeah.
When we were talking about cherries on the show, then after, when we were off stream, we went to get a snack, and I got a sweet instead of the actual fruit, but same difference.
And it was sour. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate bitter. Yeah. Sour physically like hurts the back of like my jaw for some reason. It makes it feel like tense. It gives that little tingly thing in the back of my jaw, and I really don't like that. Bitter.
I feel like that's because like you have a certain like the enzyme glands. I feel like are activating when you eat that. That happens to me if I haven't eaten in a while, but it's not specific to like a flavor.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that for you it's like for a specific flavor. For me, it's just like if I haven't eaten in like I don't know some small chunk of time, then after that I'm fine.
See, no, I get it with sour as well. It's like a really, not all sour, because I feel like I've kind of got used to a certain level of it. But yeah, if it's really sour, then it just, it's like it feels like your jaw's tightening at the back. It's really weird.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that feeling so much. I don't like it. But yeah, bitter. Yeah, I do appreciate a bitter, in drinks or even in like a candy kind of stuff. If it's a little bit bitter, it's like, oh, okay, okay, yeah.
So would you say, like with a gin and tonic, would you say tonic's quite bitter? Or what would you describe as tonic as? Yeah.
Tonic is bitter?
See, that's what I was thinking, because I
always find it slightly like
I don't like it.
Tang to it, like
I don't like tonic.
It's a little bit bitter. It also depends on how much sugar is added to tonic, because actually quite a bit of sugar is added to tonic waters. But it is a little bit bitter. Like Aperol spritzes, bitter but sweet. You know, that like bitter taste, but it's good. There's also this other it's like a tea. What kind of tea is that? It's a little bit bitter, but obviously, yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And you know, you add sugar to it, but it's pleasant. It's pleasant to drink, and it has a lot of health benefits.
We say that, but like when you first have it, if you've never had it before, you might just hate it, and it's awful because she's underplaying the strength of how bitter that is. Like it is like a truck hits you on the tongue. Like it is bitter.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about it's pleasant. Like no, for the uninitiated, you need to brace yourself.
Yeah. See, for a tea as well, I think that I'm not like a massive tea drinker anyway, so that it's a weird concept to me, but I'm intrigued. Maybe I will have to try it, but I probably won't like it.
Vegetables.
What'd you say?
Bitter in my vegetables, where you have like that crunch on top of the bitter. It just feels great. It like so satisfies. I don't know what that is.
Sometimes bok choy can be a little bit bitter sometimes. Just a little bit, depending on how much seasoning, or if you're just wanting it in its purest form. Sometimes bok choy can have a little tang, like little touch of bitterness, and I really appreciate it in that.
Yeah, hear that.
So,
Yeah.
Ashley D95 has tuned in again. Hello, thank you for tuning in,
Hi,
as always.
Ashley D95.
So they have said, hello, I think I would go sour. There you go.
We've got a split house right here.
2 and 2
We've got
today.
a split house.
I know.
Today.
He was agreeing with you on Monday, Paula.
I know. Now it's you, Jess. Now it's you.
Wow. That was a good question. It was a little bit different. I liked that.
Thanks. And thank you, ladies, for entertaining. Bitter or sour.
Well, right, ladies. Shall we get started?
We shall.
Okay, so I realised I didn't even introduce the topic yet. So on Monday, I kind of hinted that as the made-up scenarios were creative, or did I say what we were talking about today?
You did say what
Oh, okay. I was going to do like a little teaser, but fine. I've already said it. So we're going to be talking about the film industry today. So I am very excited, obviously. Very, very excited. And
very much Jess's thing, yes.
And hopefully, we can get a really fun conversation going. Hopefully I can teach you ladies and everyone tuning in some stuff about the past history. Again, the film industry, there's quite a lot that kind of goes into it. There's different elements. So it's not possible to kind of cover everything as we're only on here for about an hour or so. However, what I have noticed is that the past Thursdays, a lot of the history in the topics that we've spoken about, it's a long history where actually film has a very short, recent, but a very rich history. So you'll probably notice as I go through the history of it that kind of advancements are made very, very quickly. So that's what I found quite interesting. So let me just transition and get into it. Okay. So the film industry, as we know it today, originated in early 19th century. So this was through a series of technological development. So you had the creation of photography, you had the discovery of illusion of motion by combining individual images. And then you've also got the study of human and animal locomotion as well. So yeah, as I said, it's not possible to kind of go through everything, but what I will go through in this history of it, I'll kind of do a brief history of sort of how it started, some of the inventions, and then the people that kind of moved film along to what we know it is today. And what's quite interesting from reading different articles, and there is one article from, let me just look. So it's open.lib. So it's like a library's website, but it's called The History of Movies. So I'll post that in the chat as well. So everyone tuning in, you can kind of follow along as I'm speaking. But yeah, different articles that I was kind of reading into, it doesn't really state that just like one person actually invented cinema. It's sort of like a series of events kind of spurred different people on to kind of keep developing it. But in 1891, you had Thomas Edison, along with his lab assistant, that made the invention called the kinetoscope. And this is basically the predecessor to the motion picture projector. And the kinetoscope is basically a cabinet. It's on screen for everybody tuning in. It's basically a cabinet with a window through the top of it. And basically it was just for individual viewers at one time could basically then experience the illusion of moving image. And how they did this was a Every time, I have to mess up my words. It was basically like a film strip with a sequence of images on it, and that like spooled rapidly between a light bulb and a lens, and this was what created the illusion of motion. And then some of the sequences that you could see were circus performances, you had like ladies dancing, boxing matches, and I even read of one that showed like a tooth extraction, which, not my thing. I would be very like, that's not my thing. Yeah, but the kinetoscope became really popular, and they basically then started to install these machines in hotel lobbies, amusement parks, penny arcades, and then actually they made their own kinetoscope parlours as well because it became so popular. There was a demand for it. But because Edison at this time hadn't secured an international patent for this invention, throughout Europe, what was happening is people sort of heard about this invention, but then basically started to make their own. So they started copying it. And then through the copies, they had other sort of inventors that saw this amazing opportunity and sort of began playing around with other methods of projecting moving images onto a larger screen. So then, just jumping, let me just change the picture on screen. So moving to Europe, in France, in 1895, you had Auguste and Louis Lumière, who were photographic goods manufacturers in Lyon, France at the time, and they created the cinematograph, which is where we get the term cinema from. So that's a nice little fact for you all. And the cinematograph was basically like a lightweight projector, but it also functioned as a camera and a film printer as well. So it's kind of 3 in 1. So when they say lightweight, I'm like, how? How is that possible? But the kind of plus side compared to the kinetoscope is that the cinematograph was, as I said, lightweight enough. So it was easier to sort of shoot outside because you could actually pick it up and move it around, where the kinetoscope was sort of big, bulky, so it kind of had to just stay in one place, basically. But the Lumiere brothers used the camera to shoot over 1,000 short films. And basically, just like the story telling episode that I did, which you can go check out on the videos tab, by the way, go check that out. It basically depicted everyday life. So it was just every day they would just set it up and just shoot whatever they saw. And then later on in the year, so December 1895, the brothers then actually held the world's first commercial film screening. So it was a sequence of about 10 short scenes, it says, and it included their first film, which I am going to play on screen.
Does the video that you were playing have sound?
Okay. Can you let us know if the sound's playing now? Oh no. I don't know how much it cut out. We'll just wait. Hopefully, it says that there's sound coming out. So hopefully. Weird.
I get sound. I just played audio from it, and I'm hearing the sound. So it might be something with his speaker, or their speaker.
Okay, well hopefully we'll see on the back. But yeah, if it did cut out for any reason, again the article is in the chat. So if you do want to reference anything, if it did cut out, just go back there and you can see it from there. It's coming out on OBS, so hopefully it should be okay. Okay. So yeah, he basically created the trick shot, so it was like the magical sort of transformations, but he made it into the narrative medium that it is today. So before it was just sort of the one shot, and that was the short film, where he began joining these short films together to actually create a story. And then one of the most popular films is called Trip to the Moon, and that is what you see on screen. Yeah, apparently we are able, the sound is back now, so that is good. Thank you very much for letting us know. So yeah, one of his most popular ones was A Trip to the Moon, and that is currently on screen, and that came out in 1902. So, however, what's really sad about him, as much as he was an innovator at that stage, he never really developed his technique beyond sort of treating the narrative film as a staged kind of theatrical performance. Again, you can kind of see it on the screen. It's very, I want to say kind of flat, but I mean in the terms of like, yeah, it looks like it's on a stage, basically. So actually he lost his audiences to filmmakers who were experimenting with more sophisticated techniques. So one of them is a gentleman called Edwin S. Porter, and he was a projectionist and engineer for the Edison Company. So the Edison Company have come back around. So let me just get this one on the screen. Yeah, so he basically he made a 12-minute movie which is on the screen, and it's called The Great Train Robbery, and this was in 1903, and this broke the stage-like compositions of what we just saw. But he used sort of editing, he started using camera pans, rear projections and all of this kind of stuff to actually produce continuity in shots. So again, rather than it being just sort of singular shots one after the other, just cutting to different scenes, he was actually kind of continuing the motion through different shots. So this established like a realistic narrative as a standard in film. But this was also the first major box office hit as well. So that's really cool. And then just briefly moving on, so this is when we now see the sort of motion picture industry emerge. So this is where the big production companies that we know today started to emerge. And then in these early years of theatres, cinemas, this is basically where because again they were short movies, they only use single reels of film. So then what people started to see then is the development of feature movies. And because at that time, the single reel of film could only allow about 60 minutes of playing time. So of course, if you're making like an hour and a half, 2-hour movie, you're going to have multiple reels of film. So they then realised that they could start importing multiple reels. Obviously, you would just need a projectionist in the little booth to kind of change over when necessary. But yeah, feature films at that time were seen as a real special event. So audiences were sort of willing to pay a little bit more for it. But as we know from sort of the reoccurring theme of these episodes, that in the past, these type of things were very popular among sort of the middle classes, you know, people who had a little bit more money to splash. But the middle classes kind of saw this as a more respectable sort of entertainment of live theatre. So that was interesting. But then with the increased popularity and demand, the industry then realised that these needs could only be met if films were produced on a regular year-round system. So that led to Hollywood studio system. So the reason actually why they chose Hollywood, I mean, it might be obvious to you ladies, but I think at that time they were shooting in Chicago, they were shooting in New York, and then they were like, not going to work. And the reason why they chose Hollywood is because temperature was more consistent throughout the year. Yeah, I thought that was like, yeah, that's really obvious now that I read it. And apparently the land was a lot more plentiful back then. It was cheap at that time also. But there was also close access to sort of different scenery. So you did have lakes, deserts, mountains, and all that kind of stuff. So they could be a bit more, you know, experimental with where they shot. So moving to the 1920s, Warner Bros. Were actually just a small Hollywood studio at that time, which is crazy because they're one of the big players now. And at that time, they were looking for an opportunity to expand. So there was, they were basically offered to gain, let me just move the picture on. They were basically offered to gain the rights to a new technology that was called the Vitaphone. And this was basically a sound-on system that no one really wanted to touch at the time. So Warner Bros. Basically decided to take a chance on it, and it paid off. So basically what this did, it started to pair sound with visuals. So at this time, it wasn't new because there were previous theatres that, you know, they had the space to have orchestras within the theatre. They did that. So it wasn't like a new thing, but it was just introducing this new technology. And they wanted to appeal to the smaller theatres that didn't have this option, where they didn't have the space for these big grand orchestras to perform every night. So basically, yeah, they got pitched this technology that would be able to do that. They took a chance and it paid off. So in 1927, they released their second film, and there was an actor on screen that actually spoke real words. So from then on, sort of by 1930s, the silent movie was a thing of the past. Everyone was like, no, we know actors can speak now. We want them to speak. But then you had 1922, you had Technicolor Company introduced a dye transfer technique that basically allowed it to produce full-length movies in colour. So I think previously, before that, they did have a technique where they would sort of paint on after it had been filmed, but it was just very time consuming, and I think they were just like, we need to find a better technique for this. But even that dye transfer technique, it only used apparently 2 colours at the time, so it wasn't very lifelike, and still companies were like, no, we want like to show real colour. So it wasn't until 1932 that Technicolor actually designed a 3-colour system that had more realistic results. And then for the next 25 years, all colour films were produced with this improved systems. So you sort of had your Disney films, so like Snow White, that kind of stuff. But then you also had live action human movies as well. But what's really sad is that at this point in the US, you guys were really feeling the impact of the Great Depression. So expenses of special cameras, crews, Technicolor labs and all of that was just impractical for sort of the studios that were trying to cut costs. So it's almost like they had this really cool technology, but they almost just couldn't afford it at that time. So it wasn't actually until the 1940s that Technicolor really started to replace black and white. But then just jumping on a little bit, so 60s, 70s, so this movies of the late 60s began to attract a younger demographic. So you sort of had movies like The Wild Bunch, you had 2001 A Space Odyssey, Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah, exactly. You had these kind of movies which were very revolutionary at the time, because it displayed sentiments of like unrest toward conventional social orders, and included like instances of realistic like and brutal violence in movies.
Yeah. You know which one I'm reacting to of that group?
Yeah, the second one.
Bonnie and Clyde.
No, the first one.
The Wild Bunch.
That's all I'll say.
I like that. That's just like oh god. I don't think I've ever seen the Wild Bunch actually. I've seen 2001 and I've seen Bonnie and Clyde, but I don't think I've seen the Wild Bunch.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Okay. So yeah, basically this is when movies started to appeal to a younger demographic. We could probably tell why, I did sort of explain, but yeah, it was almost like movies now started to become real fiction and people could kind of lose themselves in it. It wasn't just like conventional, husband, wife, they have a perfect life, so younger people were now like, oh, finally, I don't have to go to the cinema and be told what I need to be like in life. So these sort of movies became really, really popular. And this is where the blockbuster kind of started. So then you had in the 70s, 80s, you had people like Spielberg, you had Lucas, Scorsese, all of these young film school educated directors who did contribute a lot to the industry at the time. There was a real sense of professionalism, and they really mastered their technique of filmmaking as well. And this is also a time, a real jump as well, where we then started to see computer generated special effects as well. Which, now sort of we will watch back certain movies and we're like, oh, but some of them, I think what I really enjoy is sort of looking back on really old movies, and if the special effects are really good for the time, I'm like, you know what? They were just doing, they were just doing the best with what they could. And honestly, there's some like movies that are more modern that the special effects don't look that good. So,
True.
But yeah, the rise of computer generated special effects really helped with the success of these movies, the blockbusters as well, because again it was new to people, where they could again start to see proper fiction come to life. It wasn't just necessarily like humans dressed in costumes. You could really let your imagination go wild. And funny enough, this is also when the industry then sort of realised the benefits of sort of TV and radio advertising, which again is crazy when you think about it, because it's such a big part of our everyday lives. And also Hollywood started to embrace the wide release method of movie distribution. Again, weird concept, because my whole life you go to the cinema and you just think, well, it's been released everywhere else, where no, it was only until like the 70s, 80s where they then started realizing we can make so much money if we release movies in different countries, in different places, all at the same time. And then you have in 1975 the VCR was introduced. So by late 90s it was in every single household in America and the UK. It then took it, you didn't have to just go to the cinema to see movies. You could actually sort of go rent a movie and bring it home. I was thinking about this earlier, I was going to say sort of watch as much as you want, but VCRs, you got to be careful. You wear them down and then it just becomes impossible to watch them. But no, then sort of going to the last few points, so the 90s, you really saw the rise of two divergent strands of cinema. So you did have the technically spectacular blockbuster with special effects that I kind of just mentioned, but you also then started to see the rise of independent low-budget movies. So as much as sort of in the 70s, 80s, people were really loving the blockbuster, heavy special effects, whether they're good or bad, but then people actually just started to enjoy sort of low budget movies as well, which I quite like. And then the last point of the past before we move on is in 1995, the year of my birth, we saw the beginning of a fully computer animated movie. Do you ladies know what that movie is?
Toy Story!
Yes. So that is, again, Hollywood or cinema film then jumped to another realm of, fully animated movies. And what a movie to do it with. great movie.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. I was already 5 at that time, so I was a like movie connoisseur by that time.
Watching all the blockbusters, you were like, I know every single movie.
A Bug's Life, yes.
Yes, Bug's Life was good. But yeah, sort of as I said at the beginning, like if you go back and sort of you think of the time periods that I was stating, there's not actually that long of a history, but as I said, sort of the developments technologically sort of jump and, you know, happen so fast that you've gone from literally, you know, talking about the kinetoscope where it's sort of, yeah, like just an individual viewer experience, and it's sort of, you know, creating the illusion of motion, to then the 90s where you've got animated movies and special effects going on. So yeah, I mean, there's so much more I could go into in the history, but obviously we want to talk about the present, we want to talk about the future. So was there any little standouts for you ladies that you sort of enjoyed from the history? Paula, do you want to go first?
What I love, the trends that we're seeing over the weeks in the Throwback Thursday episodes is how no matter how advanced something becomes, will always find a way to try to bring it back to the basics. Or, you know, the budgets are getting, you know, $200 million big budget, like high action packed films, and then also the introduction of the indie films, and you know, the lower budget, how that gains popularity as well. I what I appreciate through the film industry's many years of evolution is the fact that, you know, there at least now there seems to be more of a niche for everyone to be able to enjoy films and see themselves in films, and I think that will keep advancing as we progress through times and years, and different technologies that are coming to the big screen. Yeah, I love it. It's a very interesting topic. Thank you so much for all of the background information. I really didn't know it, the origins of the film industry, and this kinetoscope, is that's what it's called?
Yeah, kinetoscope. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. It's like those fast pictures that keep on going through. I think that's so fun, and from there it has evolved into things that we see on screen now that are just, it's just truly incredible that this is something that's been invested in such a way that, you know, storytelling can take on any kind of form within the film industry that it wants to now, because those advancements happened and people saw the need to invest in being able to tell stories in a different way. So
yeah. Lauren, was there any standout points for you from the history?
I think it was, you know, it was interesting to learn about the way that it kind of was a grassroots thing that grew up, and it's always when, you know, there's this realization, whoa, we can make money, that, you know, you see something expand. So I appreciate that the film industry did not disappoint in following that trend. As I said, The Wild Bunch, it is a film.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's really cool, you know, that to think about how recently special effects and that kind of thing, you know, really evolved, right? And that's in the lifetime of our parents. And I think as well, you know, I have a lot of respect for people like, you know, Lucas and Spielberg, for what they brought, like the way that they changed how we believe we can imagine. Because like in storytelling, you can create all of these things, you know, with words and whatnot. But to get us to the point where we were like, no, we don't have to compromise when we're in our visual storytelling. We can actually bring all of that in. I think it's really cool, and I look forward to the next segment that you're going to talk about, because I can only imagine that that's going to, you know, be even more a part of it. So really cool.
Yeah, it is really interesting. As I said, I sort of learned briefly about it in uni, but that was quite a long time ago, so it was sort of a little refresher for me. And I think you've made a really good point. The fact that they knew that it was going to make money, so that explains why it sort of developed so quickly, because they were like, right. This is a perfect way. But that's what I mean. I think it's crazy that it wasn't until like the 70s, 80s where they thought, right, we need to advertise across different mediums and we actually need to release worldwide. I just think that that's crazy. But again, it's because I don't know any different. So yeah, film is definitely one of my passions. So I always enjoy talking about it. And with you ladies, it makes it even more fun. So. But before I move on to the present, if you are tuning in, just be sure to follow us on social media. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Arghon AI. Be sure to friend us, follow us on Twitch so you can join in when we do go live in future streams. And also the website at the top, so arghon.com. Be sure to go check it out, download Arghon, see what it's all about for yourself. So, present day. I mean, even from sort of the 90s to now, a lot has changed. And as we know, because we're living in it right now, streaming services, most popular thing right now, and especially with everything that's going on in the world currently, Netflix and all of that they've probably got so much money right now. But it's because people, for a few months couldn't go out and do anything. So streaming sites, and I think, you even have places like YouTube now. YouTube's been around for quite a while. But I see the sort of, it's becoming a lot more inclusive in the sense of, you don't now just have to be a part of a film studio. And even you see the development in cameras themselves, the fact that, they used to be this really heavy bit of equipment, which they still are in terms of the film industry, but you now can pick up a photography camera, a DSLR camera, and you can go out and shoot your own movies. And I think that's really nice, just knowing that, again, the film industry that has created so much joy for people, people can now just get involved themselves. And again, you don't need to necessarily have a degree in it. You don't necessarily need to have money, but you can go and do it. And one of the most popular things I think people talk about these days in regards to streaming is algorithms. They track, and basically try and create a more tailored experience for you. We've had this discussion where sometimes I feel like Netflix isn't the most accurate when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I've seen a real rise the last couple of years that people really enjoy sort of using that algorithm and getting recommendations from what they've watched. So yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's so much that kind of, even as I said, from the 90s to now. I didn't actually know that Netflix has been around for like a ridiculous amount of time, but originally it was just like a rental service. But I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like a major competitor. Well, not major. It was like a small competitor to like the Blockbuster rental thing, and they started with the kind of like, you get a few. We send you DVDs. Mm-hmm. You watch them, and as you send them back, we'll send other ones that are on your list.
Yeah.
And I was actually on. My then best friend was on Netflix, one of the early, like the first people who used it. And I remember using it back when it was the DVD exchange, and then being like, when they were talking about the streaming, I was like, okay, all right, it's more convenient. It's definitely more convenient.
Mm-hmm. See, in the UK, we had something called Love Film. And I don't know if it was like from Netflix, but it was very much that. So they would send you like 3 DVDs from your watch list. And then, yeah, when you send them back, they would send you another load. So, yeah.
Wow. I had no clue that's what Netflix was. I remember the service and the things that they provided, but I didn't know that it was specifically Netflix. Wow.
I know. I read that earlier and I was like, whoa, okay. But I mean, they stuck with it. They developed with the times, and now look at them. You can't fault that. But no, in regards to even the film industry right now, I mean, Lauren, you showed me and Paula off stream the other day that LED screens that are basically well, they're not going to, but at the moment, Disney are sort of using it to replace green screen. So instead of using green screen, which is, you know, a really old technique that has been in the industry for years and years and years, they're now trying out this LED screen that basically, you know, just from like a tablet, a device, you can, the lighting person, director, cinematographer can change the background on set. So for the actors themselves, the crew, they can actually now reference stuff on set without having to stare at a green screen all day and imagine, okay, that's where the mountain's going to be. So I think, again, even just that big shift in technology is just incredible, and it makes me so excited. I know when, Lauren, you showed it to us, I was just like, oh, this is incredible, because it is just so exciting to think of, you know, that people aren't necessarily just trying to stick to what they know, and they are trying to develop and improve the industry. So it makes me really excited. But yeah, I don't want to stick on the present too much, but yeah, I think it's just mainly streaming services now. That is sort of where we're at. I know for the last like 5 years, there's been a huge conversation in terms of cinema. Are cinemas going to last because of streaming services? But I think with the pandemic, we saw the movies that were kind of affected right at the start. They then tried to move to streaming services, but then they were charging quite a lot to watch. Yeah, yeah. I think the Invisible Man, it was about 20 pounds over here, or it was like 18 pounds or something. So I tried it. I don't know. I didn't really hear many people talking about it. But yeah, I know cinemas at the current time, and within the last 5 years, that's been a huge conversation within the industry, is if they're going to stick around, which I hope they do, because I really enjoy going to the cinema. I enjoy that experience as a whole. But ladies, is there anything within the film industry that you would like to talk about as it relates to present day?
Going off of what you were saying in monetizing the film industry, can film survive without being on the big screen, the silver screen? It can. I think that times like these are proving that, you know, streaming services are just as, you know, formidable competitors in the monetization of films than you would say just releasing to theaters worldwide. Because the reach is comparable, if not more, to the advantage of streaming services. Everyone, for the most part, or knows someone who has access to a streaming service that can utilize the services that are provided. I think the film industry, the negotiation processes going behind films, and what the bidding looks like to acquire the rights to these films. It is something that right now it all of the streaming services are huge contenders. You know, Apple, Hulu, Netflix, all of these names are names that, you know, are in the boardroom meetings, are in the calls to discuss who we are wanting to sell the rights to blockbuster movies. And I do see the structure of the film industry changing sooner than later. I mean, we are really right now in that turning process of, you know, big Hollywood names are utilizing streaming services as well as going to cable. And it really is the playing field is evening. And I'm excited to see that, because with it going to cable and streaming services leaves a lot more flexibility as to, you know, what an artist can do with those mediums.
And I think that's interesting, because I brought up a point of the reason why Hollywood studios were kind of made was because there was such a high demand for new content that now it doesn't necessarily have to be new content, but the fact that these streaming services have to stay, you know, fresh and new in terms of making sure that they update, because where it is so easy to access these streaming sites, people go through them, especially right now. People have gone through so many series, so many films, where again, you just get a little bit bored of what's on there. So that's interesting, that the demand is still there, but it's kind of shifted slightly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lauren, what did you think, or what do you think of present day film industry?
Yeah, that video that you were talking about with the LED background is one of the most exciting things. You know, and my I think my true excitement, though, similar to like with indies, and the proliferation of indies because of the kind of easily accessible technology, is I look forward to the day when those kinds of things, specifically that kind of environment building, is something that is easily accessible to a large majority of filmmakers, because I think you can just create some amazing stuff and on much lower budgets with that initial outlay.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that works. And I mean, I have ideas as to how that would expand, but I'm not going to get into all that.
No.
But, you know, one of the things that I've liked about hearing everything up until now is, you know, you get this idea that indies have become kind of a bit more prestige. I feel like, at least in the indies I've seen, they're definitely larger works. I don't think they're quite as bootstrap as they used to be, which is both a good and a bad thing, I think, because it's harder to enter in as an amateur. You know, you have to really, you can be an amateur, but you have to have a really strong plan and kind of team around you to make something that really gets passable. Because what's happened, I think, with streaming is it's also changed the tastes of the public. And I think we see now where, you know, just, you know, a grainy film that just showed everyday life was, you know, the thing in the 1910s and 20s. You know, it's very different now when, you know, people are able to, with like a snap of the finger, you know, watch, you know, $100 million movie, but from their, you know, phone screen, right? So it's become that these massive outlays are now consumed almost like, you know, daily cereal, you know, but they're still quite intense to make. So I think we'll find the right balance as well. The industry will find more balance when, you know, some of the technology that is being advanced now becomes more commonplace, so that, you know, the average indie filmmaker can really produce things that meet that same high standard that everyone's looking for. But again, with more people being able to do it, you can actually have a lot more stuff coming out to meet these demands. Like you said, because streaming is creating such a massive demand now. You know, a film used to be that, you know, you'd have a big blockbuster film in a theater for 6 months in the 80s, like, or longer, you know, if it was really, really popular, and people kept, you know, going to see it in the theater. Where now the lifespan is still, no matter how big and how flashy, because we have such a proliferation, has become so much shorter. So, you know, now it's about being able to produce high quality in high quantity. So it's really interesting to think about the fact that, you know, we're also seeing, I think, the industry shifting because, you know, there is this influx of money now. Like, where the money came from, I think, just, you know, your box office is good. You have a particularly big star and a big director, and boom, there goes the magic. You know, now I think, as you talked about with 1995 being in a way a watershed moment where technology became so much a part of film, we see that the technology industry has become so much a part of film with these things like streaming algorithms, but also venture capital funding. Right? That's where, you know, companies like Netflix, like, not so much Amazon, but I'm sure Amazon as well. You take other people's money to grow your business, right? But you see them taking on tech financing to really, you know, build out this roster of new content. And so much of technology has become part of how we actually absorb. I won't get too much into that, but has become so much of how we absorb stuff. And again, that's just bringing it back for me to the indies. That I think there's also a fever pitch excitement because people feel like if I make something, I have a greater likelihood of maybe getting a payout for it.
Yeah.
Even if it's harder to make something. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think these changes have really both democratized but also made smaller. So I don't know how much democratizing that is. Made smaller the pool of what gets seen or who can make stuff that gets seen. So
yeah,
those are my thoughts.
No, that's good. And I think, like indie movies for me, I can really appreciate it, studying that kind of thing. You always sort of, indie movies are like, you're rooting for the small guy. You're like, okay, you're not Spielberg or Scorsese, but yet, like, I still really, like, I want you to get to that level, which they may not want to. But that reminded me that even these days, you can even just use your mobile phone to shoot movies. I know some people that have done that. And I think, again, that's really cool, the fact that you can just pick up your mobile phone and, the technology inside, the phone, the camera quality is so good that, you can still, create something really good through a mobile. And I think technology is just cool, it just is cool. And I just love that, it's like the pressure of, they don't feel like they necessarily have to make blockbusters all the time now. That they feel like they can actually produce content that they would want to see themselves. But we have a question, ladies. So Ashy D has said, keeping with the film topic, what is everyone's favourite film? And also, it's crazy to see how much there has change there's been in film since the start. It is crazy. There's a lot of change. But ladies, what's your favourite movie? Paula, you can go first.
Wow, all these first, getting to go first.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think about, okay, I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I love Elf. And Elf is currently on Netflix right now.
Have you watched it?
Netflix. Have I watched it since it's been on Netflix?
Yeah. That's what I'm asking.
The fact that the response is a straight up laugh.
The way she's just like, have I? Oh, yes.
Have I watched it? Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, I mean, I have a bunch of favorite movies, but I will go with, because we did this our first ever episode, I will go with Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Elf. I'm switching it up. I'm adding more.
Wait, no, give us your top five. Give us your top five.
Oh, that's even worse for me. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Elf. Oh my gosh, there's so many.
You said you're
There are a bunch.
If they come I like mine. They're probably the ones you like most.
Mulan.
Oh, good choice.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Which Marvel movie did I like the most?
There's so many.
There's so many. Captain America, Winter Soldier. That's one of my favorites.
I was waiting for that to come out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do love The Lion King. But I also really love Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So five. I did six. I'm sorry. Yeah. Those are I mean, that's a hard question. I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of movies that I could watch over and over again and like still really love them. Mm-hmm. The Holiday. Love that movie.
That's a good one.
She's going into her top 10 now. She's just like, I might as well keep going.
No. How about this? Top 5 does not include favorite holiday movies outside of Elf because that is a perennial favorite. Like Paula wouldn't be able to remove it from her top 5 even if she tried.
Sure.
So outside of holiday movies because that's a whole strong genre on its own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Lauren.
I named like 7. So
yeah.
Someone else.
Lauren, okay, you can either do your top 5 or just favorite movie. It's completely up to you. Don't feel the pressure that you have to.
Oh no, I mean I insisted on it, so the least I can do is answer it.
Oh.
So top 5. Ooh, this might be in no particular order. I know what they are. I'm just trying to figure out which one I say first.
I'm trying to think.
So, The Matrix.
Great movie.
I, Robot.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Chain Reaction, which is this 90s movie that has Keanu Reeves. Is it Rachel Weisz? I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Is it her? I can't remember who the actress is. I'm so sorry for getting it wrong if you see this at a future point. The movie was great and you were great. And Morgan Freeman in it. And I don't know what it is about that movie, but I can watch it all the time. So that's 2 Keanu movies in my top 5, which
he's a cool dude.
He's a cool dude. Reeves is he's a national treasure. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Sorry, keep on going.
And 2 more, right? So Matrix, I, Robot. Okay. Gosh. What was that film that she did? Ugh, I don't like the producer of that film though. So
who
I want
the star? Who is the star?
The star is actually Judd.
Oh, you're talking about Double Jeopardy.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Sorry, it's just so excited she got.
I'm like, so sure.
You should know that every time you do that, I feel like I'm always slapping you down because it's always like
Double Jeopardy was so good though. It was so good. I thought that's what you were for sure talking about. I was like, yes, that's it. And it wasn't. It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry. And I really like, what's another one that I watch all the time? Not a TV show, a movie. Okay, hold on. It's in my collection. I just have to see it. What is the name of it? Oh my gosh.
Chocolat.
Oh gosh. Give me a second, guys. Ladies.
The way it's like we're just sat here and you're just like, just give me a second. Just Oh, okay.
I can't think.
I was just here like
I think the last film, I'm just gonna throw it back to a childhood favorite that I watched all the time, and that is The Land Before Time. I'm just gonna throw it back to that. I wasn't an 80s baby, but I watched The Land Before Time over and over again. So that'll just get honorable mention. I'm sure this list is in no way actually exhaustive or accurate, aside from Keanu Reeves being necessarily in the top 5.
Oh, obviously. That's fine.
And then I, Robot,
yeah. Oh, okay. It's my turn. So, but then, ladies, great movies. So my all-time favorite, Breakfast Club. I can literally watch that every day and never get bored of it. Another John Hughes movie coming out. But yeah, I just love that movie. I could literally quote it. So whoever watches it with me probably gets quite annoyed because they're like, does she have to say every single line? But I'm going to go Breakfast Club. I'm going to go Joker. That was a great movie. I saw that 3 times, 4 times in the cinema.
That was a great movie. Mm-hmm. I took my friend who was with child the time we went to see it, and I was like, this doesn't seem like we should be watching this with a baby in your belly.
No.
It was fine. It was fine. Baby's happy, joyful, it's fine.
That's fine. That's good. That is good. I went to see like Insidious 2 or something, and there was like a heavily pregnant lady in the cinema, and I was like, you should not be here.
Maybe it gives her peace. Maybe it gives her peace. You don't know.
No, that's fine, but you know, it's just you don't want it to force the baby out. You know.
Imagine you're in the middle of Insidious, and then someone's water breaks, and you're having that baby. Like.
That's just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
You kick into a different gear. You like, all right.
Oh no, I mean I don't mean you literally. I mean you as in like that's what's happening in the theater you're in.
Yeah.
No, obviously your priorities shift immediately if it's your own uterus. Yeah.
Fight or flight, ladies. You know. Okay, so sticking with that horror route. So Breakfast Club, Joker. I'm going to go The Shining. Great movie. Stanley Kubrick. Great movie. I've got a Shining inspired tattoo also, you know.
Wow.
Oh, this is tough. The Dark Knight, so we're going with another Batman movie.
Oh, that movie's so good.
Christopher
How
Nolan,
did I forget
great.
that?
Great. What's the last one? Maybe Blue Valentine. I do love that movie. Ryan Gosling.
Michelle Williams.
It's a proper like real life movie.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happens. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with
Yeah.
that. Again, it may not actually be accurate, but right now I feel like it
That's
is.
the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
but I was gonna ask Ashley D and everyone tuning in as well. Feel free to let us know your favorite movies.
Can I make an amendment
But they've let
to
them
my
know.
list?
Yeah,
Can I make
go.
an amendment to my list?
Go.
So I have to keep Ashley Judd on there just because. So I have to remove The Land Before Time, and I have to replace it. Once you mentioned Nolan, I was like, that's the one that I was watching over and over again. Inception.
Yes.
Inception's
Inception.
so good.
It's
Inception.
10 years.
Everything about that movie was beautiful. Everything about that movie was beautiful. It was a beautiful movie.
Came out 10 years ago. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
Feels timeless. His movies feel timeless.
Exactly. Yes. I mean,
feel timeless.
Thing like he is such.
Yeah.
He does such a good job.
Yeah.
Like, good job is like
it's
an understatement.
Knowing that he was self-taught, you know, that he
I know.
was basically it's his own genius that brought him to that point. I like that a lot of his original stories, he doesn't pay attention to, you know, the bounds of what a story should be. I love that he includes as much science and physics, you know, even though it becomes moviefied and is like completely throw out the rule book. But I just love the way that, you know, he makes such a. I don't feel like he's talking down to the audience at all.
Right.
And there's such a fully immersive otherworldness in the story. Like you get that this is the world you're in. You know, you can suspend disbelief. And I think the way he does it with such sophistication and depth. And then I just like that everyone dresses well in his movies. Like I like that that's not he doesn't compromise on that because aesthetics matter.
It does.
It matters, you guys.
No, it does. And with Christopher Nolan, like all of his movies have that Nolan look about them. But what I really appreciate is The Dark Knight isn't the same as Inception. You know, there's a few filmmakers that sort of, you know, every movie's very similar. But that Nolan just does it. He takes it to a whole new world, let's say.
Yeah,
it's because of the level of detail he puts into world building. You know, like one world can't be like the next when you know exactly what the alarm clocks and all the apartment buildings look like. You know what I mean? Like, really can't be the same.
Yeah. Man, that's so good. I know. Oh my gosh, I have to ask you, ladies, that question with Inception. That top turner, you guys, was it ever gonna fall? Was he in too deep? Was he still in a dream world?
See, I feel like when I watched it last, I feel like that was my theory, that he was in dream. But you don't know. Like, it could have fallen once the camera cut. But that's what's good about it, though. But there's loads of different details, but I've not seen it in such a long time that I cannot remember.
I feel in a way, though, I feel like that choice was such a ridiculous choice in general to have that be the last scene. And I feel like it was, you know, I feel like it was him trolling. Like, I think no matter how sophisticated a director is, they are still going to be a dude with a camera at some point. And I definitely looked at that and I was like, that's just you being a dude with a camera. So I think that's nonsense and you shouldn't even consider think about it. Like I think it has so little to do with the actual film. That I'm basically like, nah, they went through all that work and everyone else wasn't out of their mind. So therefore, homeboy made it home. Like that's what I think, because there's just so many other people involved. Yeah, I mean, but I also I'm Schrodinger's cat about it. Like I kind of think both happened, if that makes any sense. Like It's such a loose. Again, I just feel like it was the most trollified way that I just don't take it seriously in any direction. I'm so sad. But like,
no, that's fine.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just looked at it's like that was like adding an unnecessary like girl in her bra, but Nolan version where it's like it's sophisticated, it's elegant, and it asks a really great question. You know what I mean? It's not the girl in her bra. It's the next level up. I think every director has their troll moment, and I just think that was his.
Yeah, agreed. Like, I can imagine, I've never seen the script, because, you know, sometimes they get released and you can see it. I literally imagine it just saying that it's spinning, end. Like, even, it doesn't even say in the script or anything, you know. He may not even know. He may not even know.
Yeah.
I think that might be the most true thing. I don't think he knows.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, then he's definitely trolling. Sorry, Paula, go ahead.
If you give it a watch a few times, I feel like there are certain things that could lend to, like, that top just not ever stopping. But really, it is up to everyone's interpretation, which I appreciate about that moment. About that moment. He makes perfect films. Like, I couldn't say one thing. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with his films. The Dark Knight was like, oh my gosh, incredible.
Yeah. So good.
Incredible.
I just love his world building. I think he's so good at it. And Interstellar was like one of those films that messed me up after I watched it. Part of it was I'd been sleep deprived for 3 days, and then I watched Interstellar in IMAX.
Whoa, okay.
So it was sensory overload. But it was also really great as a film. It's really great as a film.
It is a great movie. It's very emotional. But funny you mentioned Interstellar. So Ashley D has also let us know. So he's asked the question, but he's also let us know what his favourite movies are. So top 5 would be A Clockwork Orange. So we've got some Stanley Kubrick. That is a really good movie. It makes you, you have to like go lay down after you see that movie. It's a roller coaster. Joker, Interstellar, Fight Club, and Toy Story. You have got a whole bunch going on in there. I love it.
I feel like I can actually imagine the soul of the person who likes all of those films. Like I feel like I have a strong sense of that personality.
Like you start with A Clockwork Orange and you end on Toy Story. Literally.
About the big questions of the universe and like
That's a good list though. It's very varied. I like that.
Solid choices.
Yeah, that was good. But thank you, Ashley D, for the questions. That was a really good question. It got us speaking. But yeah, everybody else tuning in, feel free to obviously leave your questions and we will answer them as we go along. So ladies, shall we talk about the future with artificial intelligence?
Let's do it.
So again, I'll try not to hog the limelight too much, but I came up with some really cool ideas, what I think is cool anyway. I mean, everything related to AI is cool anyway, but as I said at the start, there's so many different elements that kind of contribute to the film industry as a whole. So therefore, I see there is so much space for artificial intelligence to fit into the whole industry. So for instance, so I think the actual film production side of things, I think you've got your pre-production stage where the AI can actually do the research for you. So you don't have to spend hours upon hours scrolling through all of this stuff where, you know, you can get the AI, it knows what kind of movie, what, you know, documentary you wanted to make, and it can kind of bring all this detail back to you. And again, you can be left to sort of do the more creative, fun role in that. But then also script creation, which we've briefly spoken about before. I think even finding talent. Like, imagine how cool it would be to sort of present your AI with the script that the AI may have helped you write, but then sort of the AI being able to sort of scout people for you and sort of think, right, this is the people that I can imagine being in your movie. And then you're like, okay, great. Like, I just love that. And also sort of like maybe storyboarding, recommending sort of like certain shots that will suit certain, you know, emotions and all of these kind of things. Production side of things, you know, we were sort of talking about the LED screens. So imagine, you know, taking that a step further and thinking using that technology, but right now we're going through a pandemic, so maybe these studios don't want 20 crew members on set. So imagine, you know, having your AI on set and they're able to, you know, do all that lighting and all of that stuff for you. And I think when we speak about certain stuff like that, I think then that brings up that fear of, oh, but AI is going to take my job. That's not necessarily true. So it might just shift the job slightly. So instead of you maybe being on set doing the lighting, we had this conversation off stream as well, sort of, yeah, not replacing your job as a whole, but your job role shifting slightly. So you then actually giving the AI all your personal knowledge, and it's sort of learning from you, and then it can just be that aid on set. Again, when right now it's not appropriate for loads of people to be all in a small space, it can do that for you. Post-production, which I mentioned briefly on the storytelling episode. So again, if you go to the videos tab, you can see all our past streams on there. But yeah, doing the research again in that aspect. So doing the stock footage, stock images, finding that all for you. Music. Again, imagine being able to tell your AI, right, we want it to be this certain genre and it needs to be a certain BPM. And it just does it for you, again, so you don't have to sit there for hours and hours trawling through all of this music. But even maybe creating music for certain scenes, you know, and creating sound effects and doing all of that. Special effects, we spoke about AI sort of in the gaming world. So again, imagine the AI being able to create these, you know, characters, or just, yeah, adding special effects to the background for you. Which would save production companies a lot of money also. But then I think, so my last point, and then I will pass it over to you ladies, but I also think about the consumption side of things. So we were talking about algorithms briefly, but imagine AI being actual, well, I mean, it's proven, but imagine AI taking it another level. And again, rather than using these algorithms just to sort of give you results just based on maybe what you've watched, it doesn't know right now necessarily if you actually like it or not. So it will just give you recommendations based on that. As we said, Netflix sometimes is a little bit wish-washy with the recommendations that it gives me personally. So having your AI again that knows you personally, that can kind of be your companion, can be your friend, and you know, you can have a conversation and be like, hey, I've just watched this movie, really liked it, I really like this actress, or I really like that director. And even being able, which I think I would really love to do, is like talking to my AI and say, like, I would rate that 10 out of 10. And then from that sort of information, you know, your AI can learn about you as an actual person and actually know that you like this movie documentary, and then sort of go from there and actually be able to give you recommendations that actually do suit you, and not just, oh, okay, you watched this movie, so therefore you should like this one. But there's also really, we spoke again about storytelling, sort of creating that like 4D experience, but at home. So, you know, again, with permissions, you would have to give it permission. But imagine, maybe not a scary movie, because that might take it a bit too far. But imagine, yeah, you're in bed, or you're on the sofa, you're watching a movie, and then it can kind of control maybe certain smells that it puffs out. Lighting, I don't know how much you would want to do with that. Again, if it's a scary movie, maybe not, because that would be.
I think you underestimate how much people like to be freaked out.
Well, I'm speaking for me personally. I don't think I would like that. As much as I love horror movies, I just the lights like flickering along. Oh no, I'd just be covered.
But here's the thing: you would know you were in your own bed.
But that makes it worse. Because then it's really like, is there monsters under my bed? And you've got to do that little thing.
Imagine you had your bed like on a, like a motion system. You know how like they used to have those beds where they would like vibrate if you put the coin in. So imagine if you had like a bed that was on a motion system, and so like you were watching something, and every time like the footsteps, your bed shook.
Oh
no.
At least in the first generation exposed to it, they would lose their mind. The second one would probably like think it's normal because it's what they've seen. All right, Jess, I'm giving you the floor.
No, but that was it. That's where I was sort of leading. I've sort of again gone through a lot of information, so apology, ladies, if I've sort of overloaded you. But that is just some of the ideas that I just can, I can really see AI coming in and making the filmmaking process and even the consumption more streamlined. And again, I think I really like the thought of AI coming in, sort of helping in terms of budgets and stuff like that. That again, you don't necessarily have to pay someone for their time to sort of trawl through all this research of stuff. And again, in real time, an AI can just quickly find all the stock images, footage, research, even scouting for talent like that. So I'm super excited and I cannot wait. I mean, as we spoke about the LED screen, that's kind of, they're trying to use that instead of green screen for some studios. I think that is just such an exciting thing for right now. So imagine what's going to come in like 5 to 10 years. What's going to happen? Who knows? But ladies, I will pass it over to you. So Paula, do you want to go second this time? Do you want to go first this time?
I'll go second. I'll go.
Yeah, the reason we went with this arrangement is just because we don't want like what I say to then have undue influence. That's why we started it that way.
I don't think I would have been influenced by what you said. I just think that the points are good points all around, regardless of the order in which we go. But okay, I do think that the research, the artificial intelligence will definitely aid in the research process. As you were saying, I see it from even the production studio for them to sift through scripts. I know there is something out there in the film world like the 50 best, or I think it's 100 best scripts of the year that, possibly go on to usually win Oscars or awards or anything like. Is it called the blacklist, or like, the scripts that are like the best of the best scripts? It's
yeah,
something.
I think it's called the blacklist. I don't know what the number, how many there is, but it's like ones that are floating around, and sometimes they just stay on the list, but sometimes they win awards. It's like, yeah.
They've got like the most buzz around them, and then every year, like celebrities will read the scripts, like what they have to deal with, and I see artificial intelligence being involved in that process with studios. If there is a certain trend that they are trying to accomplish for the year in filmmaking, instead of having to read 100 scripts of the best plus all of the other scripts that they receive daily, weekly, monthly, the AI can actually go through and say, these are the preferences that you have entered into my system, and these are the scripts that best match your criteria. I see artificial intelligence being a part of the creative process as well. I see AI, aiding in possibly, I know you're very interested in these type of movies. If you had an idea that maybe you start an idea and the AI could possibly help you along in different themes to help you create your script. In the script writing process, grammatical things, how to format the script. I think artificial intelligence will aid filmmakers who are not only legends and extremely advanced, but also those who are looking to get into the film industry, the filmmaking process, and jump into the industry. I do believe that AI, as much as it can learn, it can also teach people a lot of knowledge that maybe they haven't been equipped with before. I will say that I believe AI can definitely help with those things. Just as we spoke a while ago about how musicians and getting into to playing your own music and making your own CDs, I do believe that artificial intelligence will have that same effect on the filmmaking industry. I also see it as a way to save money in creation of films, and also save on the amount of people that need to be involved in the filmmaking process, especially in times like right now, for sheer safety. And if you are just starting out as a filmmaker, you probably don't have, a $30 million budget to put towards, hiring a cast and, setting a location and, making sure you have a full team of people to work with you on something. So I do believe artificial intelligence, not in a negative way, could possibly supplement for those places where you may not be able to afford sheer manpower, but have all of the power you need through the use of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and that's kind of made me think, because like at uni I would have really appreciated having like an AI that I could have been like, hey, what's the best filming technique for this kind of shot, or what's the best editing technique. Like, that is so cool. Again, it can be a friend and a companion. It doesn't just have to be a chat bot that you're literally just speaking to and it's just going to blurt out an answer. That's it. So I think that's exciting for me.
Yes. And then even after the filmmaking process has ended, in the editing room, AI helping you to see which pieces of film that probably were optimized, like the lighting was just right in this film, it matches perfectly to the cut you've already chosen to use. You mentioned the soundtrack and everything like that, but also in the distribution of the film, when we do get back to mass film releases, optimizing the markets that you advertise to, and knowing which markets have worked best for the kind of film you are trying to put out. So yeah, I think the future is bright with AI in the film industry.
Agreed.
Cool stuff. I really like that point about it being this tool to help teach and also just kind of carry you through the film, that super companion aspect. Again, this is about helping. This is about, AI is about bringing ease. It's about actually helping to serve people, getting them what they are looking to achieve, with as few steps and as simple a process as possible. So it's such a really good point. And I think it really, one of the things that AI can help with on a set, we're talking about just the production side of things like set safety, right? Being able to, if you've got a scene where there's water everywhere, right, because it's either a lake, an ocean, or there's just a rainy day or whatever, safety is paramount in multiple ways, both on the electrical side, on the physical don't slip side. There's just so many things, safety about, having checklists, even just the simplest stuff like, okay, make sure this cord is no longer tethered to your actor because we're about to move this giant thing they're standing on at 30 miles an hour and they are not a metal machine, right? So, that idea of, an AI can say, hey, wait, you haven't yet told me you finished this particular part of the setup. So for stunt coordinators and things like that, I could really see it being, that extra eye that helps to manage, the details of setting up a stunt and making sure it goes well. And because so many of our films are these big, the blockbusters usually do have some level of stunt coordination, and even films you don't expect still have that as well, because, just driving can be showing driving can be a whole process, right? I really see it being an aid to the crew on the day, an aid to the director when it comes to, tracking your schedule, right? Being able to know, what shots do we have coming up? What shots have we already done? For the line editor, the person who tracks, okay, where has every prop been on screen? Wait, move that spoon back to that other side of the table because they need to throw it. Those details, and AI can remember things at a scale that people, we naturally as human beings, we have error, we forget, we get distracted, but an AI does not get distracted. And just as a reference, Arghon, if Arghon asks you a question and then you go and ask Arghon something unrelated, right? Arghon will still remember, wait, but that first question, I still need the answer. Okay,
yeah,
I'll
we
sit
haven't
here.
finished. Yeah.
Arghon will really be like, okay, I'll sit here and wait until you come back with an answer. And then when you come back, Arghon's like, so about that thing, da 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 da. Obviously within reason. It's not annoying. It's helpful. So helping stunt coordinator to, make sure props, the director to know, the person who's running, watching the lines, those details there, for the actor, literally being able to run lines with your AI, dealing with when you're talking about lighting and set, one of the cool things about a production, and especially when you have any kind of budget, is being able to actually have really dynamic things happen within a scene visually with the environment, and then the camera being able to move and capture, what's happening, right? Whether it's multi-cameras capturing something, or it's kind of that individual camera, but it's just maybe someone's holding that camera and moving throughout the scene, and there's no reason that, think about drones, right? We have drones that are shooting in 4K cinematic quality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they can move and go and do all these things. So imagine a camera operator who now understands AI, is able to actually manipulate multiple cameras at once, right? But via automated movement. So I know we could have things like, this camera's on the track and it runs and it looks up and it looks down. But think about it like, it's almost like, not to reference Marvel again, but in Spider-Man, I'm gonna try and be spoiler free about it, but in the second Spider-Man film that came out with Gyllenhaal, and basically these cameras, that's as far as I can go with that without it.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah.
It's this idea of, a lot of what they do is kind of a fantasy, but it's like extrapolated from lots of things that are in existence. Mm-hmm. So imagine, like Jess was saying, being able to have your AI help you figure out what's the best way to capture this scene, right? What shots are really going to emphasize the emotion or the action or the whatever, right? And so a camera operator can go or a cinematographer, the whole group, directors, can go and say, all right, we want this one here, we want this one here. And then AI actually being able to manage the placement and the timing, right? And have, if you want to have exact replication every single take of a certain movement of cameras, the AI can do that. Or the AI can say, well, I know this preference is this. When this light goes down on the lighting thing, I need to shift my view up, whatever, being able to manage things like lights and have essentially this really, automated, kind of immersive responsive set, right? And AI can actually help build that. So then the filming experience for the actors and the subjects inside the scene becomes extremely seamless, right? Because, if they're on a sunset, why not have the lights actually kind of setting around them, right? But then you have cameras that are automated to, okay, if that's what's happening with the lights, my opportunity is to expand in this way. Right? And AI can help manage all of that. And that's not actually taking away from the work of the camera operator, of the director, because guess what? Who decides what these things are doing? Who's programming it? Who's making it possible? And so we say all of this, and that's why we say it's so important for people to learn how to code.
Yeah.
Anybody can learn how to code. And when you learn how to code, you give yourselves the tool to be able to adapt to any circumstance, right? We've built Arghon. We've made Arghon so that way, you can essentially, integrate it with any service or operation that you want, right? And so, we've created this program, this initiative called Vision 2020, and that's where we teach people how to code completely for free, whether or not you've coded before or you've never coded in your life. This is a process that's going to take you from 0 to 100. I can create amazing things within an AI, right? Arghon is customizable. It's easy to use, right? And so we really encourage everyone to go to arghon.com/vision 2020, because all of these things that we're talking about here, you can make this happen. Customize your AI so that it does exactly what you need for you. And it's easy. So go to arghon.com/vision 2020 to get that going, right? And so when we talk about that, and we're talking about the film industry, this should be seen as an exciting opportunity, right? This is an exciting opportunity to gain a new skill and to up your pay grade, to say, hey, wait, I just programmed an entire sunset for you. Pay me for that expertise. Pay me for that expertise, because that's not the same as, and this is in no way a knock to it, but just holding a camera and pulling in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, so I don't mean in any way to simplify it. But it's just this idea of, when you bring this extra knowledge into this space, like AI can really expand what we can do. So it's not about shrinking it. It's not about taking anything away from the industry. In fact, it expands it.
Yeah.
If you are filming any kind of show or movie, or have any kind of production, and now with certain sound systems, you can automate or pre-program light settings, and then you just press, oh, okay, I want setting 1, setting 2. But imagine being able to do that dynamically, because the AI can adjust and adapt to changes. Oh, I really want to increase a little bit of the blue light that's in this sunset. And then the AI says, oh, wait, if we're increasing blue light, I need to adjust what's happening with this camera here so that da-da-da-da-da, right? All of these things that can happen. And it means that the crew member, the artist, the creator in all these circumstances both has more knowledge, right? But they can play. You have more room to play and to improvise with things that are massive, right? Filming a sunset and it's the final big shoot, it's the climactic scene. There's no reason why a lighting director can't be improvising with the actors.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, wait a second, this scene, up the red, this moment, and then the actors are seeing it, and so just adding a little bit of knowledge, making your AI do what you want it to do, customized for you. The possibilities are endless. There are no limitations on what you can do. Again, go to Vision 2020. Go to arghon.com/Vision 2020 and start coding, because you open the world. You open your opportunities and your options to you.
Yeah.
And that's not just it. I wanted to talk about, so that's kind of on the production side, right? For the director, it's being able to actually just, track the progress of not, some of the technical stuff, all right, well, where are we now? We have to ship so-and-so over there to this country because we're going to film at this time. But it's also being able to communicate to your staff, right? To your crew, to all of the people who make this happen. And AI can say, hey, because we're doing that now, this is shifted. And so instead of it being like, wait, what are we doing? And someone needing to megaphone across the whole, everyone being able to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a kind of instant, experience. Being able to film at a far distance. Let's say you're doing stuff with extras and you're filming, I don't know, it's a huge war scene or something like that. There's no reason that your what do they call them? It's not extras. It's a nicer phrase. I can't remember it right now. But your people who are coming in for the day, there's no reason why you can't give a direction or a series of dynamic directions that you want them to undergo, and then their AI is telling them as they need to do each step.
That's
right.
That's
and
cool.
So you have to be 500 miles off because you're filming an entire mountain scene, but they're still getting these really detailed instructions. And there's less confusion because it's one, consistent message. There's just so many things. And then when you talk about pre-production, it's all the things like, like you were saying with research. It's things like, being able to figure out, does this location fit for what we need?
Yeah.
Wait a second, you're going to have to film this, and this. All right, you have 4 scenes where you need a wide open space. You have this kind of scene where you need this kind of brush, this kind of blah, blah, blah. And then the AI being able to help you communicate with your, the people who are helping you scout and whatnot, being able to manage contracts, being able to help you with those negotiations, even if it's just helping to keep that communication going back and forth. It again, AI, we like to say when it comes to, you know, similar to the mass production episode, where it really is a partner to everyone who's involved.
Yeah.
Right? It's a partner to all of the people working on this, because so often films are basically these massive communities when you're talking about a certain scale, these massive communities that come together to create something spectacular that then, separate and come back together. And an AI can actually help maintain those connections. And then when you're dealing with indies, your AI being able to help you manage, the details. Wait, move the fork back. Hey, you have this, and this. Oh, okay, I need to tell so-and-so to go pick up this actor because they're about to do a scene at this point. All of those different things, you can actually end up with, a sleeker, tighter production with even less money because the AI plugs in. So again, go to arghon.com and start interacting with Arghon, interact with AI, because it is so simple. It is customized to you. You can have an AI that does something no one else in the world can. It is the connector to you and the goals and dreams you have. So don't hesitate, for sure. Don't hesitate. It's exciting. And as someone who, similar to you, although I did not necessarily go to school for filmmaking, I did some acting stuff, but it is quite exciting when you think of what AI can do, because as much as we see the films now that we watch and we say, wow, they're so big, they could actually be bigger.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
They could be bigger, and they could actually be more intimate. We could get much stronger versions of each scale. And I don't know if I talked much about the way that cameras literally could be a part of fitting into particularly tight spaces and stuff like that, but
there's so many things. I know.
And lastly, we have to make sure we say this for people who are figuring out the algorithms for casting and figuring out who would be best for the role. Again, remember, it's really important that when you are casting, that you look for everyone.
Yeah.
That you consider everybody, every skin tone, every origin, every ethnic group, religion, background, size, age. It's really important that you remember to tell and put into your AI that kind of open-mindedness. Otherwise, what we'll see is people who look just like the makers of those algorithms, those AI algorithms. So again, we just really encourage anyone who's going to apply AI to, any part of their filmmaking process to make sure that they have a diverse team helping them to build it, because it's a lot easier to have a diverse outcome if the inputs are also diverse.
That is a perfect point, and that is one of the ideas that I had, because as much as we on this Twitch channel we speak about bias and all of that, but again, imagine this AI that you've built, that you've made sure that there is no bias, that you've had input from every background, that again, whoever's working on this pre-production again might have a bias, but leaving it up to the AI to be able to handpick a few people, I think that's really incredible, that actually it would take out that element, and actually we can have cinema be representative and actually show people from all over the world. It's really exciting. And as
I didn't mention budget tracking, but that's also a big part of filmmaking. AI can help you with budget tracking and finding the, getting good deals to make sure that, rental of whatever equipment and so on is on par with the budget.
There is literally so much that we can speak about. And I think, as I was saying, the fact that it's a short but rich history, and I think it just makes sense that AI would be a part of this industry, because we've seen such a vast technological shift just in the brief history that I spoke about today. But I think this is probably the longest episode we've done, but I've had so much fun. So thank you so much, ladies, getting involved in the conversation. And thank you everybody tuning in. Thank you for commenting, Ashley D. We really appreciate it. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up here. I won't keep you ladies any longer. But no, as Lauren was saying, you know, one of the ways to make the AI and tech industry more diverse is being able to learn to code. And the fact that we have an initiative. So if you go to arghon.com/vision 2020, it's free. You can literally start today. You know, there's lessons on there that walk you through everything. So, you know, we really recommend go doing it. Upskill your life right now. It's free, got nothing to lose, and everything we've spoken about, you can literally do in Arghon. So go check it out. But also, while you're there, be sure to check out Arghon itself, download, start interacting with it. You can literally have a conversation like we've had today on the stream. Social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you go find us at Arghon AI, be sure to follow us. Check out the content on there. We also have YouTube, so youtube.com/Arghon. When the streams expire on here, they do get transferred over there. So if you have missed any, make sure to go check it out, subscribe. But that is it. Another stream done, another week done on the Arghon AI Twitch channel. Be sure to follow us, friend us on here, so you can, you know, check in with us as we are live, so you can get involved in the conversation as we speak. But yeah, that is it, another week. So we will be back on Monday for Flags and Polls. And that is just basically where we speak about some made up scenarios around artificial intelligence. So be sure to check that out. So that is 8 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. That is it. And we will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.